I sat on the pew waiting for my friend, Lydia, who had gone to see the priest for whatever reason I didn't care to ask. She was my colleague at work as well and pleaded with me to accompany her to church. After a while that almost seemed like ages, Lydia approached me alongside the priest. My heart skipped its beat. He was young and the most handsome man ever. They stopped right in front of me and I just remained seated, with my eyes almost bulging out from its sockets ogling the priest. I didn't even notice Lydia talking till I felt her nudge me, thereby jerking me back to reality. I quickly got up as she introduced me to the priest. I felt my heart melt when he smiled at me, and when he shook my hand, I trembled. I wished he held my palm a little longer, but his hand dropped onto his side. When we left that night, I felt a cavity in my heart like something was missing. Yes. It was my heartbeat. It had suddenly stopped. And when I got home that night, the thoughts of him clouded my senses. It was becoming uncontrollable. I tried to distract myself with my favorite TV show, but that didn't help either. Hi, my name is Rebecca. Before I go any further, please like and subscribe to my channel. I slept sad that night. The next day after work, I went to see the priest. I didn't tell Lydia. Fortunately, I saw him at the entrance bidding farewell to someone. He was surprised to see me. Lydia's friend, right? He asked and I nodded. She didn't come with you. How's she? She's good. I was within the neighborhood and thought I should stop by the church. That's very thoughtful of you. Plus, there's something bothering me that I would want to share with you for some godly advice. That's if you have some time to spare. Sure. He said and then led me into the vestry. It's about my personal life and may not sound holy, but please, I assure you it's for a good cause, I began. I'm in love with someone, but he's out of my reach. Does he know? No, but I overheard him say he's not into women. By that, do you mean he's gay? Maybe. I'm not sure. Tell him about your feelings. I can't. I'm scared of being rejected. You should be ready to take risks if you must succeed. Do that and get back to me. Before I left, he gave me his phone number. Mission 1 accomplished. That night, I called him to wish me luck. He did and told me to keep him informed with the outcome. Of course, my handsome priest, I replied inwardly. If only he knew what I was plotting. I didn't call him that night so he would crave to hear from me. He fell for it. He called me on the phone and I refused to pick. But when the calls kept coming, I had to connect the call and pretended I was crying my lungs out. He rejected me, I said. I won't be held responsible for my actions. With those words, I disconnected the call. He started calling me almost immediately. I bluntly refused to answer. I smiled. I didn't know I was so good in acting. Minutes later, he was at my doorstep. I allowed him knock for ages before opening the door. There were used tissue papers I dumped on the floor to make it look like I used them to blow my nose while crying. The moment the door shut behind him, he took me into his arms. While he apologized and blamed himself for my predicament, I savored that moment. I just kept crying while my hand held his cassock fondly. He was too engrossed in his apologies to notice. Moments later, I stopped crying and offered him a drink. He hesitated at first, but then, I urged him to take it since it was his first time visiting me. He accepted. Of course, I added a little something to make him dizzy, and he didn't take long before dozing off on the couch. That was it. I couldn't believe my plans worked perfectly. I stripped him of the cassock and then took him to my bedroom for a night of pleasure. Father Bruce woke up the next morning to my cries. He looked at me and then around the room. He quickly got up and then realized he was only in his underwear. What happened here? He asked. I didn't respond but kept crying. Please, Tell me I didn't take advantage of you. When I just kept crying, he started apologizing. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to have carnal knowledge of you. It must have been the... He paused, thoughtfully. Juice? I asked. Are you trying to say I drugged the juice I gave you? How could you think so little of me? He looked away and then got dressed. I'm sorry, he said. Can we act like this never happened? Of course not. You took advantage of me. You knew I was sad and helpless. I even tried to stop you, but you overpowered me. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I'm even ashamed of myself. I can't believe I spent the night here. This is too much for me to assimilate. I have to leave now. I'll call you when my head is calm. He left with those words and I started laughing. I finally got what I wanted, but I wasn't done yet. I have to make him mine by all means. I would make him give up his priesthood and then marry me as his wife. Few weeks later, I went to go see him. I handed him the result of the pregnancy test I did. He looked at me in utter shock. You can't be pregnant, he said. But the result says otherwise. He studied me for a while. Why are you doing this? I'm lost, Father Bruce. Does this whole thing seem like a game to you? I'm the one traumatized. And you think I'm not? I'm a priest, Rebecca. If I had wanted to start a family, I would not have been here. I've worked so hard to be where I am today. This is going to ruin my reputation. Isn't there something you can do about it? I looked at him. Are you asking me to terminate the pregnancy? He was quiet. I got up and left. I was not even pregnant, but I was ready to play dirty to achieve my aim. I bumped into Lydia at the entrance. She was surprised to see me. Of course, I fabricated pleasant lies that she believed, and then she promised she would come to my apartment when she was done. Father Bruce came visiting like I already anticipated. I've thought about everything happening and I've come to realize you planned this whole thing, he said. I was okay till you offered me that juice. I know I was drugged because I took that juice to the lab to be tested. I was willing to let the sleeping dog lie, but when you came up with another lie, I knew you were really on a mission to tarnish my image and end my priesthood. My question is, why? Because I'm in love with you, Father Bruce. I fell in love with you right from the moment I set my eyes on you. Can't you see you're too handsome to be a priest? And you feel it's up to you to decide. So I thought, but now, it's up to the child we're expecting. He will be the fruit of our love. Again with that lie. He opened the door and the lab scientist I paid for a fake pregnancy test walked in. Accompanied by a policeman. Right then, I knew I had lost. Take them away, Father Bruce said. I was going to pay for the crime I committed. I bowed my head in shame. I met Lydia outside. She slapped me hard on my cheeks. How could you do this to my cousin? You disgust me. Officer, take her away. That was it. My crime finally caught up with me.